Hi, a very warm welcome to each and every one joining us today for this another informative webinar that we have planned for you on behalf of OP Jindal Global University. It's my honor and privilege to welcome you all for this another interesting session that we have planned and we have been doing continuously since last almost a year now. I am very happy to have a distinguished set of international educators with us here today. They come from four different regions of the world and they represent some fantastic universities. We also have a person representing a very well established and very well recognized in education consultancy from Mumbai. So this promises to be a rather interesting and another one of informative webinar for our audiences. This is your host, Ankur Vohra. I am the Director for Outreach and International Admissions at OP Jindal Global University. We are a leading university in the field of social sciences, research, liberal arts, and humanities. We are located in Delhi NCR in India, and this is our small effort in keeping the conversation going around the higher education and education space in India and abroad during these tough times that we are in. I hope all of you are doing well. I know for a fact that we have a lot of our Jindal students joining in. So special welcome to all my Jindal students that are looking forward to listening in from these stalwarts of international education. A special warm and welcome for all my career counselor colleagues from around the world and teachers and parents that have joined us from various parts of the world. I am also being told that we have a lot of school students who have joined in for this webinar. So very warm welcome to each one of you. You may come from different backgrounds, but we all have our interest in listening to our speakers today, and that is what matters. So as I said, we have been doing this conversation since last 1 year. Particularly in 2021, we started hosting some really interesting webinars when the second wave hit us. And today is yet another episode to understand how is it that the current scenario, the current impact of COVID-19, which has been definitely affecting us very badly. I hope all of you are staying safe and well, and of your loved ones are doing well. But its impact has been very hard to be away from. Everybody of us has felt its impact on our daily lives, on our professional lives, personal lives. So I thought we should also talk to some international education experts to see how is it 1 year down the line, how have they adapted their processes, how have they adopted their education, how is it on the ground situation, how are students and parents who have to make some of the most important decisions of their lives during these really tough times, tough times adapting to the new normal. So this is what the topic of the session is today: impact of COVID-19 on international mobility of Indian students. To give you a context, I'll just like to start by saying a few things about the current situation. Uh, we all know 2020 was the year when we first heard the name COVID and lockdowns, and we got to know the importance of vaccines. Uh, so 2020 was a phenomenal and a historical year in which we had to forego a lot of our freedoms uh, because it was just not possible for us to resume or do our daily life activities, and we were restricted to internet and computers, and also for those lucky of us who could afford an internet connection and a laptop or a mobile, could adapt our lives. But a lot of us in India, where we are sitting right now from the developing country, had to forego a year of education because of lack of internet or laptop. So Zoom became a verb for us. We started doing everything on Zoom. We started learning on Zoom. We started teaching on Zoom. As a admission director, I adapted my processes to Zoom and online world. I'm sure all of my colleagues also did. It was tough year for everyone, including all of us in the higher education space, administration space. We had hoped 2021 was behind us and things were looking up. I remember February of 2020, of this year when we resumed office, and we felt that probably we would be back on campus again. Students will be back on campus again. We really miss students back, want to have students back on our campus, and we're hoping by probably October, September, we will be able to host them back. But then uh, we all know what happened. We had the second wave of COVID-19 infections. Uh, this is the current number. I think for the last 10 days or so, India has been having infections or COVID-19 positivity rate around 400,000 plus or less than that. So around 350,000 to 400,000 every day we are having cases in our country. It's a very, very disappointing and horrific situation, to say the least, that we are find ourselves in. So I don't think, uh, you know, there is no other way to put it until and unless we say use the word horrific. So we are in second wave of COVID-19 infections. There is a lot of misery around. With regards to education, if I talk specifically about grade 12 students, grade 12 examinations have been postponed till after June 2021. There is supposed to be a CBSE review meeting on 1st of June. There are already talks around, and there are already articles in print, or TOI came out with an article yesterday that in all probability 12th exams will be cancelled. So that will have its own repercussions. What will be those repercussions? Only time will tell, but we can talk about it in our 90 minutes discussion today. Limited standardized testing opportunities. We all know that SAT, ACT slots were limited, and very few students were able to write those exams. Limited opportunities for profile building. Not many students were able to get out of their houses. Not many were able to do the kind of things that they would have liked to do or pursue to make their profile stronger for the university of choices. There is general anxiety and uncertainty as we live the second wave. Anxiety is all around us, and students and parents are no different. There are questions around, will the grade 12 examinations be cancelled? How will university admissions happen if no grade 12 or entrance examinations will be conducted? How are international universities looking at the current situation? This is very important. We want to know how are these top institutions evaluating our application. What was the case last year? What is the case right now? And what do you think 2022 will look like? How should I mitigate the risk of COVID-19 impact on my university application? Very important as a student. How will COVID-19 impact my university experience? Another important question that a lot of my students ask me. Definitely for me as a university located in India, I have to answer those questions, but how are international universities answering those questions? This will be interesting to know today. International education related concerns. As I said, how will be my application evaluated? Visa, will I get to travel? Uh, will it be online learning? For how long I have to be studying online? And is it worth it, the cost to pay for an online education? So these are some of the questions that I could make sense of in my conversations with my students and my colleagues in the career counseling community. And that is where I thought I will bring in the experts and talk to them and see if we can find some answers to these pertinent issues of our day to day. So I would like to stop here and just do the thing that I have invited this panel for, give the ball to them, and for the next 90 minutes talk to them and find out more about how the world of international education is adapting. I'd like to invite my first speaker from University of Edinburgh, Mr. Harish Lokhun, to share his comments and feedbacks and expert opinion on the topic of the day. Harish, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ankur, and thank you very much for inviting me to be on this panel, and to all the other panelists here today. It's great to be part of this. I really hope everyone is keeping safe and well wherever you are in the world. I know particularly in India, it's obviously not the best situation at the moment. I'm just going to share my screen before I start the presentation. That's possible.
Harish, you should be able to do it now.
Thank you very much, Ankur. Yeah, so I've just shared the screen just now. Hopefully everyone can see that.
Yeah, we can see that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So my name is Harish Lokhun. I'm the regional manager for South Asia, based here in Edinburgh. And I'm going to talk to you about Edinburgh's position on COVID-19 currently, what we did so far since March last year, and what we're doing now, what we're planning to do for our 2021 intake. So just to give you a bit of context to Edinburgh, for those of you who aren't aware, just going to go through a bit of context. We are one of the 4 ancient universities in the UK. We're a global top 20 UK university, QS World University ranking. Founder of the Russell Group, very strong for teaching and research, over 400 undergraduate degrees and over 300 master's degrees. We are very internationally recognized, as are all universities represented here today. We've got over 40,000 students, and half of those students are international, represented from across 160 different nationalities, including now over 400 students from India alone. So this is obviously particularly important for our incoming Indian cohort as well. Just to touch on our degree structures, it's a 4-year degree in Scotland to give flexibility and choice, so very similar to the US system. And our masters are 1 year, 12 months, 1-year masters of specialist study. So to touch on the impact of the global pandemic. So for us here at the University of Edinburgh, all of our students moved to online learning as of late March 2020, when the pandemic was hitting all parts of the globe during the initial lockdown. All of our university estates, all of our buildings closed, and all staff like myself worked from home, including our overseas staff as well. But having said that, we have been well equipped, all our academics have been well equipped with over 15 years now of expertise in digital education to make a quick transition to platforms such as Zoom, Teams. It has really equipped our students to continue their learning and get that international and world-leading learning experience from our academic expertise very smoothly at the same time. As the pandemic kind of progressed, and as it went through peaks and troughs in September of last year, we were open. We committed to remaining open. As our tagline says, open to the world. We did allow for a hybrid approach to develop, where for those students who were able to come and it was safe for them to come to Edinburgh City itself, we adopted elements of a hybrid approach with still some online teaching and some in-person teaching, depending on a student's course. Again, across the UK, there were different approaches due to different restrictions taking place across the country last year. But what have the admissions looked like for our incoming India cohort? For our incoming postgraduate intake, we have seen a 20% increase in applications for India and a 20% increase in our offers that have been made. For undergraduate, particularly, despite the global pandemic, there's been a 31% increase in applications from India. Collectively, all of that has been down to the UK graduate immigration route, which was announced in 2019 by the UK government. And that will come into effect as of July this year, where students who are in the UK, who are in Edinburgh or in any part of any other UK university, if they graduate, successfully complete their degree, they can apply to remain in the UK for 2 years to look for work. And that has seen across not just Edinburgh, but across many well-known UK universities, an uptake in the volume of applications that are coming from India specifically, despite the pandemic. So despite the current circumstances, the news is still positive. In terms of the disruption to 2021 exams, Ankur, as you mentioned at the beginning, this is going to be unsettling. The next few months will be an unsettling period. For Edinburgh's position, as it would be for any country, not just India, we are being as flexible as possible. We are going to continue to monitor the situation in India. All of our offers will be upheld, and we are going to treat 2021 qualifications as normal, regardless of the approach the boards will take when we hear further information in June. We will moderate and verify final grades that are awarded, irrespective of the assessment. We know this is a challenging time for the country, and it's up to our admission colleagues to be as flexible as possible in the approach. We recently contacted all of our undergraduate offer holders for India to inform them and give them that reassurance. We know there's a level of anxiety and worry across all of our Indian students at the moment, regardless of which country they're applying to, but we contacted them recently, and that has helped. That's helped give them that reassurance that we are still there for them, that we will be as flexible as possible. In terms of Scotland and the global pandemic, the Scottish government work very closely with the UK government. It's a separate government system in Scotland compared to the rest of the UK, but restrictions have been different from Scotland to the rest of the UK. Very fortunate comparatively to India that there is an ease of restrictions in England and in Scotland. As of 17th of May, indoor hospitality will reopen. Cinemas, museums, libraries, there will be that reconnection of socializing, but proactive policies from UK and Scottish governments have been in place to keep infection rates down. Across, we've said here, 1.3 million people in Scotland have now been vaccinated against COVID-19. The Scottish population is just over 5 million. But now across the UK, in total across the UK, at least over 50 million people have now received the vaccination. We do hope that will continue in the coming months for both first dosage and second dosage as well. But most recently, we are seeing a prompting rise in certain number of cases across the UK from the Indian COVID variant, but our UK government has reported most recently as of yesterday that they are going to monitor that situation despite there being an ease of restrictions in the UK. The university in the pandemic, we did not delay our intake last year. So we began, as I said, we began in September as usual. We made it safe for staff and students to return back with social distancing guidelines. Our library and central study spaces were open with social distancing measures in place to a 1 meter rule. And again, as I said, we adopted a hybrid approach to teaching with virtual learning and some small face-to-face classes where it was possible. The impact of the global pandemic, though, has really particularly hit our College of Medicine and Veterinary Medicine. As a world-leading research-intensive university, our academics have been heavily involved in a lot of COVID-19 research, particularly data sampling. Our Chair of Global Public Health, Professor Devi Sridhar, has been very heavily involved in supporting the UK government's COVID-19 strategy. And we've been involved in a number of drug discovery trials as well and vaccination trials, particularly supporting clinical management of COVID across the globe, including India itself, working with a hospital in Delhi itself to support the clinical management of COVID. Some of our students, we've got some links here in terms of how we've handled the pandemic. A lot of our students have said we've handled it very well. We've offered COVID test centers. Again, it's changed the way they've done things as they've studied their master's degree. But they've been able to connect with other academics. They've still been able to connect with academics, still been able to connect with the student community. They've really appreciated the efforts us as a university have gone to, particularly the one-way systems we've introduced in some of our central support services, such as our library and other support services to maintain social distancing as well. For 2021, we will continue to monitor the pandemic as it is affecting every country at the moment. We are preparing, as we did last year, for a hybrid approach to learning. So as we did in 2020, this year, we will expect students, if it's only possible, to be in Edinburgh and to undertake a hybrid approach to learning with a mix of in-person and digital teaching as well, but still monitoring UK government and Scottish government guidelines. Again, we still expect physical distancing measures to be in place at a 1 meter rule, if allowed. We are going to continuously communicate with our Indian applicants and offer holders about 2021 teaching as well, and of course keep them up to date on disruptions to exams and announcements to exams as they happen as well. And that is also supported by the dedicated support staff that we have across the university to support students overseas, a pre-arrival and induction team, academics who are personal tutors allocated to students prior to arriving. We've got a health and wellbeing centre, counselling, disability and general practitioner services, mental health being a key consequence of COVID-19 at the moment. That is more in use than ever, and a Students' Association advice place and our chaplaincy to provide that support to our students wherever they are in the world. That's it from me. I'm happy to take any questions later on, and my contact details are here. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Harish, for that wonderful presentation. Students and audience listening in, we would love to take your questions. Please use the chat box to type in your questions. I'm not going to take questions right away. We have a dedicated 30-minute slot for Q&A. So there is enough time for all of us to talk more about any of the presentations that you see. And if you have further questions on that, and we'll encourage you to ask as many questions as you can, as these are direct university representatives and can help you in making better sense of a country or a university that you plan to go to. So thank you so much, Harish, for that presentation again. I may now invite my next distinguished speaker, Ms. Anju Singh from University of Arizona. Anju, if you can please start your presentation, please.
Sure, thank you. Great. Very good afternoon to everyone who is joining us. And I really hope and wish that you and your families are doing well during these tough times. Now, my name is Anju Singh. I'm the Regional Director for University of Arizona, based right here in Delhi, India. Before we go ahead, I thought of introducing where we come from. So University of Arizona, as you can see, the state of Arizona is in the southwest quadrant of US. We are literally sandwiched between the state of California and New Mexico. But in terms of connectivity, very, very near to more popular cities like San Diego, LA, San Francisco, Vegas, and everything. When we talk about the university, University of Arizona is a public research university, which was established way back in 1885. It's an international university with a great international mix. When we talk about how many students, we have close to 47,000 students studying in the university, with the majority as close to 37,000 undergrads. So it's very, very popular among undergrad students, especially from India as well. But there's a substantial amount of graduate students who are studying, about 10,500 graduates and PhD students who are studying in the University of Arizona. It's also part of the Association of American Universities. When we talk about the rankings, of course, we are currently in top 100 universities in the world. When we talk particularly in the US, our standing is pretty good. We are in the top 40 public universities in the US. And particularly when we talk about the research rankings, we are currently 19th in the country. Now, because of the pandemic, online education definitely has taken a front seat. So of course, it's worthwhile, talking about where we stand in terms of the online ranking. So when we talk about the online delivery, we are number 7 in the nation. For certain programs like business and psychology, we are number 6 and 8 respectively in the US. We have many programs, like more than 310 majors, which are offered at undergrad level. And we are very, very popular for a lot of degrees, which includes aerospace, engineering, astronomy, because of our connections with NASA. And we also have many other programs, let's say, such as entrepreneurship, MIS, which law, we are the first university in the US to start offering law at a bachelor's level. Besides that, we have many other programs like psychology, optical sciences, which Indian students are opting for, including, of course, computer science, which is definitely the most popular major I've seen in last few years from India. Now, talking about the impact of the current situation, of course, I thought of dividing it into the main campus and what we are doing with the international students and to do with enrollment and admissions. So when we talk about the on-campus, of course, what policy the University of Arizona is following is test, trace, and treat in past few months, in fact. Because the University of Arizona is also a point of distribution for the vaccine as far as community members are concerned, and we are working very, very closely with the state of Arizona itself in terms of giving the doses to the students and be it the community members and Pima County where we are. So it's working pretty well so far, and I'm very, very happy to announce that last week the report that we have been getting very, very every week almost from the president update is that there is a less than 0.07% positivity rate in the university, which is a great news coming. And with that, of course, the president has announced that hopefully the fall intake would be opening with the in-person classes, though there will be other options also available like hybrid and just online. There's no restriction on the student though, in terms of opting for online classes. So we are going to keep it very open and very flexible for the student. And this has been achieved by offering a lot of ensuring a lot of guidelines to be followed by the students. Like we are doing daily well checks, we are doing free tests definitely. We are also trying to ensure that the students are all masked up. Distribution of few free masks are going on. When we talk about the dorms or coming to campus, the testing is really, really important on almost every week. So that's consistent consistently being followed since month of, I think, January. So this all has helped in achieving what we are, where we're standing today. Now, when we talk about the various, when we talk about the various study options which are being made available to international students, of course, that is where we have taken a big leap in the sense when the pandemic started. I think University of Arizona was one of the first international university to respond to the situation. So we have introduced 4 to 5 different modes of study options for the student. The first and foremost being live online classes. Since fall 2020, the students who started in the last fall intake have been attending live classes and pretty happy and satisfied with the offerings here. So that option is being made available to the students from Arizona. The other very interesting option which is being offered to international students is through the customized degree pathway, which basically allows students to start their studies in India for up to 2 semesters and then transit to the main campus. All right, this option is definitely becoming very popular because students found this option to be very, I would say, convenient and reasonable as well, because of course, considering the current situation, the university was very conscious of the fact that the families might be having financial crisis or things like that. So we introduced this option wherein we are offering asynchronous classes just for a tuition of $3,500 per semester. So students and parents both like this option and they're opting for this to going forward. Besides that, we also launched fully online degrees. Not like a lot of them, but quite a few, about 20 plus degrees are made available online for the students in India at a bachelor's level at the same price if they would like to. Though it's, we realize that it's not a very popular option here, but that's always something students can opt for if they wanted to pursue a degree sitting in the safety of their homes. Sorry. Another option which definitely is very new to the Indian community is U Arizona Academy. We launched this particular program, making sure that the students who are in the high school, in the last 2 years of their high school, particularly in class 11 and 12, can start the first year of any US university while they are pursuing their education in the country. So that is also picking up. A lot of students and parents are showing interest. And this basically allows them to do up to 1 year of any US university and then take those credits to any US or Canadian universities later. So this, of course, is an option which is available online at a very subsidized cost of about $700. And again, we are getting very positive response from students from India and entire South Asia that I'm looking after. Besides that, of course, we have our partner institutions. We call them micro campuses. And of course, OP Jindal University is one of them. And we also have another partner in Namita University, which has about 6 campuses in south of India. So we are trying our best to offer dual degree options, both at undergrad and grad levels to the students, right, sitting here in India. And if they want, they can transit to the main campus to continue their degrees.
Anju, you have a couple of minutes remaining, so just
sure. Now, in terms of enrollment and admissions, of course, everyone knows there's a huge surge in number of applications across US, about 20 to 30 to 40% increase, and Arizona also witnessed the same, about 30% increase in applications was witnessed this year, and we are hoping for a good response from the students. But to ensure that, of course, students do not face any problems in future in terms of admissions, so we have definitely, taken off the requirement of SATs or ACTs. We are giving more scholarships to the students. We have added, in fact, additional scholarship of $10,000, making it more than 50% of their tuition fee, which is again helping them a lot. And we have extended the deadlines for the fall intake and future intakes to ensure more and more students can, apply to the university and opt for flexi payment option, which would be basically paying tuition in the installment as well. Fall 2021 and beyond, of course, the plan, as I said, the future plan is to bring students in person in the campus. And of course, the Biden administration has announced that as long as you are holding an F1 visa, you can definitely, fly down to the country. So quite a few of our students are having that. And hopefully with the lockdown coming to end, they will be able to, reach the country. But in case not, we do have an option wherein they can continue doing their classes online. And if they happen to reach to the campus, of course, they will be having an option of in-person classes or hybrid, as we call it, flex in person. So of course, all the options are available for the students to choose and continue their study from. So yeah, that's what I had to share. Of course, students had very positive stories to share. So I thought of just, talking about it. They found this particular option that they have started beyond their imagination. They have very positive stories coming in terms of their experiences, the experience with their faculty members and everything. So I'm really happy to share it with you guys. And if you have more questions, I'll be taking it towards the end of this session. So thanks for the opportunity, guys.
Thank you so much, Anju, for that wonderful presentation. Listeners, if you have any questions for Anju, University of Arizona, or education in USA, probably you can type in your queries now in the chat box. As I said, we will have a dedicated 30-minute Q&A shortly at around 5 o'clock. Quickly moving on to our next speaker, may I now invite Mr. Sagar Bahadur from University of Queensland in Australia to share his presentation, please.
Thank you, Ankur. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for everyone for joining us on the webinar. Thank you to OP Jindal University for inviting on this wonderful panel. I think all of you, I just wish all of you are doing well with your family in these challenging times. I'm Sagar Bahadur. I'm the Principal Advisor for Strategic Initiatives for the University of Queensland in India. And I will just be touching about some macro points about how COVID has impacted Australia, what are the kind of strategic shift most of the universities, including the University of Queensland, has taken. To give a context, this is what UQ is. Everything surrounded by water is the campus, that small island kind of a thing that you see. It's one of the largest research universities, one of the top ranked, part of the group of 8 universities that we have. And I'll briefly touch upon the global ranking. It's a world top 50 university, a comprehensive university, including all faculties, including business, management, sciences, medical, and everything. Not just the comprehensive university ranking, but even the subject rankings are within the top 30 in most of the areas that we have in the QS rankings. And more importantly, it's one of the top research universities. But apart from top research, I think the researchers are doing an excellent job in teaching and transcending that education back to students. We are one of the only universities in Australia to be awarded the highest number of national teaching awards. So that's something that we're very proud of. I think to make sense of the context, I just want to give you a sense of where Australia stands in terms of COVID. Of course, it's a very different scenario there. We're currently sitting at 166 active cases, and I think 28,800 odd people have already recovered, which means the total load itself since last year has not crossed 30,000. And if you see the graph, that practically, that's dying down. They've been able to, successfully, put an end to how it's going on. Even the current cases are mostly imported cases. There's no local transmission that Australia is facing at this stage. Now, this means that there's no major COVID restriction currently in Australia. And in our context, the university campuses are open, which means students are going to campus and studies are happening on campus with very limited restrictions. Moving on, I also take this opportunity. I think we have this shift, this perception thing in India about when people think of Australia, we do this with a lot of students. What's the first thing that comes to your mind? And I think there's a lot of wildlife, there's a lot of cricket, there's a lot of tourism that people think of. This is one image that we try to eradicate when we meet students. Australia is well beyond open spaces, wildlife, and many other things. And of course, the famous sites, if you think of Australia, would be the Sydney Harbour or the Barrier Reef. You can think of the Gold Coast. But then I think what we are trying to do also in this market for a long time is trying to educate the audience that maybe you don't know all the famous Australians. I mean, we can have cricketers, we can have a lot of Hollywood stars that you can think of, but not many of us even on this platform would know this Australian. That Wi-Fi came from Australia. So did Google Maps coming from Australia. The CT that we use, the MRI technology, came from Australia. This came, in fact, from the University of Queensland. Brings me to the point that, it's a land of innovation, and innovation comes from universities, and that's what Australia should be more known. That's what we're trying to, achieve. To give you a sense on a macro level of Australia, it has been one of the third most popular student destination. 7 of the best cities, student cities, are based in Australia. They've got 43 total universities, but I'm going to focus more about the flagship universities group, that is the group of 8. These are 8 research world-leading universities, and 5 of them happen to be in the world top 50. And that's what, I would like to stress, that even when COVID happened, I think that became a clear filter between a lot of universities that Australia has in the group of 8, in the way we function, in the way the adaptation happened, and the student satisfaction came through. Moving on, of course, the impact, which is the meat of this presentation. I think the COVID impact, we started seeing this in early March back in Australia. There was a very swift and a fast adaptation of universities. Again, I'm talking about the group of 8s to online. It was also a very comprehensive change. So it was not just like offering programs, but everything shifted very seamlessly for the group of 8s as early as March 2020. We, of course, became equipped by a lot of training of the staff and the academics of how this change is going to affect the whole community. But at the same time, we also started educating the audience, the markets. For example, the perception of online is very different in India. And we started working with students, educators, and policymakers about how this online shift will be. Of course, a temporary shift, but enables continuity for education. And I think there was a lot of effort being put in by universities about familiarizing the market with what kind of changes are we looking into. While all this was happening, there were 2 very positive announcements that came in last July from the government of Australia. One was that they allowed visas to be given to students who were still studying online, which means as soon as the border situation was supposed to improve, students could seamlessly travel and commence there. And the second main announcement was, unlike any other country, Australia back in July 2020 announced that no matter how much you study online, depending on the COVID situation, that particular component will be counted towards your PSW rights, so that your post-study work rights are not affected with what you study online. So I think that really helped us build that confidence, in the student community that time. July 2020, of course, was a major test for all universities. That was something new for us, something new for the students. But I think we were able to manage, what we were expecting in terms of mostly student satisfaction, their onboarding and commencements. And what we saw in February 2021 was normalization of demand. There was good number for UQ. We had the highest intake, in fact, the best ever intake that we could think of, much above the forecast that we had. And I'm going to come to you in the next slide on that. But we have seen that the acceptability of online has gone up. Again, from the lens of a group of 8 to a non-group of 8, I think students with a very focused approach, they select the universities, and it's not based on professors, based on research and opportunities. It's not an easy shift for them to change a destination just because, these things, temporary changes have happened. From a university priority point of view, I think all these changes, what we see, the kind of disruptions we have, I think their priority has been to offer seamless conduct of education, without any stoppage. And that happened, since last year. There was also a lot of stress on academic integrity, though it's easy to work online or to teach online, but how do you maintain the academic integrity? And if you notice the last QS rankings of the world, the THE rankings, most of the Australian universities, the group of 8s, moved higher in the rankings, which shows that they were able to maintain the academic integrity even with the online education, which again gave students a lot of confidence. We have seen higher acceptability, a higher student satisfaction rate over the last 2 intakes, which has been very positive. I think the university also is looking at safety. So, all these measures of what can happen at campus, cannot happen at campus has been very dynamically looked at. Like I mentioned in the earlier slide, Australia is open, which means the campuses are open. And we are offering 3 different routes. So either it's completely online, it can be flexible. So till the time you can study in the home country and then you can transfer when the borders open, or you can be at campus or studying if you're there in Australia. And I think one of the priority of the university was also, or most of the universities, was fast opening of the campuses, which has happened in Australia. In general, of course, there are 2 different trends. One trend is that, of course, we have increased competition from destinations which are open or inviting students. And I think there's a general decline in applications. But if you see again from the group of 8 filter, you'll see that there is that increased quality and satisfaction sentiment that comes in. And not many of us, are in a position where, we have to raise any alarms. So that's been, I think, a good uh, a silver lining that I may say for the market.
Just an alarm. That's your time. So I'll request you to conclude.
Okay, sure. I'll just skip through this that I mentioned about the peak recruitment that we have had. And just on a broader aspect, the shifts, I mean, of course, we shifted to online. There's a lot of training, student familiarization, handholding. I'll just stress upon one student policy, which is unique for UQ in Australia. Students can start conditionally, which means that even if they don't have the results for 12th or there's ambiguity in their results, we've given them time till 30th of October to produce all pending documents, but without the hassle, they can start at the university. They can get a conditional visa or a scholarship. And of course, there are many student support activities. A small one is student bubbles, where within the cities in India, we are giving them an experience of virtual or face-to-face cohort-like experience. So that's something unique that we have. We've got a UQ starter program, which is a 4-month capsule, just trying to show them before they start what an online education can look like. And last thing, Ankur, just for the audience to know that while everyone talks about how do you go there, I think UQ has also taken steps of coming to India. One of the steps we took was we worked with CBSE last year to educate over 10,000 educators in India about how online learning is, how do you teach, how do students learn. And I think that's been very well taken, and most of the Australian universities, I think, are doing that kind of outreach. So I'll conclude there. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sagar. Yes, there are a lot of questions in the chat box and the Q&A. Please hold on. We'll answer those questions at 5. We want to have as many opinions as we can from the panel. So let's wait till another 15-20 minutes and we'll answer those questions. Audience, please keep your questions coming and we will be starting the Q&A round shortly. But before that, I have 2 speakers to invite. The first one that I will invite is Dr. Pavak Vyas from Canada, University of Waterloo. Dr. Pavak, all over to you. Please go ahead and share your presentation or thoughts on the topic.
Hi, thank you everyone, and very, very welcome to joining us today here. It's a matter of great pleasure for all of us that you have joined here today. I'm not sharing a presentation, but I will deliver my talk in 2 contexts. One is what Waterloo is doing, and one is based on what Canada is doing per se for the sake of and all during this COVID times. So starting with Waterloo, just to introduce University of Waterloo a bit. University of Waterloo is located in a tri-city called Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge, just about 150 kilometers from Toronto. And you will find direct trains, buses, and all means of public transport to come to Waterloo, which is an education hub. So this Tri-City is basically a headquarter to Google, Shopify, some of the big companies, tech hubs in Canada, and hosts about 4 research institutions and 2 universities and 1 college. So we are home to University of Waterloo, University of Wilfrid Laurier, and Conestoga College. This is all a student city outside from the metropolitan area of Toronto. Now, coming to Waterloo, what we are known for, we are a very STEM heavy university, and ranked among the top universities in Canada for engineering, mathematics, health, We are ranked very well for sciences, and we also have Department of Arts, which also has schools of pharmacy. Science has a school of pharmacy, and health has a school of optometry. Of course, engineering and math are our forte. So we have a Nobel laureate on campus. About 8 Olympians have graduated out of University of Waterloo, and that is what we're known about. We are known for our cutting edge research in science and technology and arts and humanities, and a little bit of business as well. But we don't have a business as a separate area of as a separate faculty, but we embed business in every faculty that we offer in University of Waterloo. So that being said about University of Waterloo, uh, what we have been doing in COVID. So COVID has been a roller coaster ride for all universities across the world, and no university is spared, no school is spared for that, and of course, not even University of Waterloo. So, however, more or less, our policy gets aligned with the policy of Canada. So we have always been, working with deeply with government of Canada and losing and tightening the strings as the waves come and go. So what has happened over last 1 year is, I think 13th of March last year, we decided we are moving to totally online. And that's where lockdown in Canada was announced and University of Waterloo went totally online. We have already been doing a lot of courses online. We are pioneering online education. So that's where that was a seamless transition for us. Most students at that point of time were in Canada. So they were still in our residences. And while they were in residences, we just closed the classes. Nonetheless, we did had permission to use our laboratories and our testing facilities and our research facilities on the campus were kept open for a while, of course, depending on the kind of research work that was going on. So a lot of COVID related health sciences research were going on, and the labs were kept open. Students, researchers, postdocs were allowed to work. And that's how we moved on to an online education platform, which gradually started deepening, and with a lot of asynchronous, synchronous learning, a lot of students decided to go move back to their homes. And being Canada, there are 4 time zones, and of course there are a lot of students that come. So we have 120 different nationalities on campus. So some student, in order to save their costs and wanted to be closer to their family during this pandemic mode, moved back to their homes. And that's where synchronous and asynchronous learning also come into force. And then of course the examination and the testing and everything else. That was the first wave. The first wave went down, and we were allowed to open classes again. So, however, they defined us, the Canadian health authorities defined us that we can open for smaller classes. So smaller classes, what's the definition of smaller classes? And in university, the classes range from 20 students to 200 students, depending upon the kind of electives and the kind of craze they have for a particular discipline. So we did open it for smaller classes that were classes for 20 students. And then, of course, the students who were out of the university campuses, some of them came back, some of them remained at their home. Complete flexibility was given for all the student in all the terms. Good thing that Canada did was the students who were in Canada, they were provided financial support by Canadian government. So the students in the first wave were eligible for $1,250 for about 6 months per month. $1,250 for about 6 months. Canadian government did pay them to sustain their livelihood, meet their expenses on campus, off campus, while everything was locked down. And that was a big help for all the international students in Canada. And that is how things came back to campus a bit, but a lot of students chose not to be on campus for all the health safety reason, and of course staying closer to the family during those tough times. Then came the second wave, as we call it. You know, I don't know, in Indian context, it's more of a tsunami than a wave. So in that context, we had to close down. And while that has been going on for quite a bit of time for online learning, uh, uh, again, things went off, and as of date, we are still closed. Nonetheless, what we are seeing with a vaccination rollout and the kind of vaccination rollout that is happening in Canada, it looks like from the government sources that Canada will vaccinate every individual who wants to get vaccinated by September. And therefore, whether it's an international student, a resident, and everyone will at least get their first shot of vaccine. And of course, depending upon the choice of vaccine that they want to get for and availability of that, hopefully everyone should get vaccinated by September. Having said that, we are planning largely an offline in-person teaching for fall 2021. So about 50% of our courses will be delivered in class. And we know that a lot of students want to be back on campus. Online learning is not the most favorite way of learning, especially when you have students from 120 countries. When a professor is delivering a class, it's a midnight for someone, it's an early morning for someone, you know, and that cannot be done. So of course, asynchronous learning therefore comes into picture, and that's like learning from a podcast, which not everyone wants to do that. So we are looking at opening up our campuses back largely and in-person fall semester, fall 2021 in Canada. At least all the major universities, including Waterloo, are planning for. Having been said, I'm pretty aware of the mobility trends in Canada. So I know Canada invites a huge number of international students from all across the world. And last 2 years, I guess, 2019, 2020, the number of students coming from India surpassed China. That makes India to be or Indians to be largest immigrants in terms of students coming to Canada. And as of date, if I can say, over 34% of students coming to Canada are Indians. Of course, there is a huge Indian ecosystem in most part of Canada, especially in eastern part, that is Ontario, Quebec, and western part, which is British Columbia. So yes, there are a lot of students coming and I'm aware that they are coming. However, presently the flights are closed. Canada, because of the worsening situation, and there was a research that said that a lot of immigrants coming to Canada, not only students, but the immigrants coming to Canada also were responsible for having more COVID cases directly or indirectly.
Pavak, I'm sorry, but that's your time. You'll have to complete.
Yeah, sure. I'll just complete. And that is where we have stopped. Nonetheless, universities are working their best. So universities do get students. Visas are stopped, flights are stopped. I guess they're starting, and we are coming back to normal very soon. That's the message I have for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pavak, for that informative talk. May I now invite our final distinguished speaker of the day, Ms. Namita Mehta from the Red Pen. Namita, over to you.
Thank you so much, Ankur, and thank you so much, the rest of the panelists. I won't take too much time because I'm sure there's so many questions coming up, and I think that's the best part of the webinar, for any webinar, when you get your questions answered. So I'm not going to spend too much time on speaking to you. My name is Namita Mehta, and I run an education consulting firm called the Red Pen. And what we do at the Red Pen is to help students at all levels of the education ladder, whether it's undergrad admissions, postgrad admissions, boarding school admissions, MBA admissions, and really help them find their best fit institution. That's what our goal is. So I'm going to speak a little bit about what's happening on the ground, changes that I've seen in international admissions, and how you can be prepared if you are a prospective student or if you've currently applied and there's a lot of uncertainty about what to do next. So let me quickly speak a little bit about changes in the international admissions. Many of you are aware that in the last year, standardized test waivers have led to more students applying to competitive colleges. Harish, my colleague, just early in this webinar said that his university, University of Edinburgh, saw an increase of 31% of applicants. Other universities, other competitive universities like Princeton and Yale have seen an increase of 15 to 38% respectively, and the admit rates are going down. So I don't think international education is really going anywhere. In fact, it's just getting more and more competitive because that many more applicants are applying to these prestigious universities abroad. However, without standardized test scores, I'll bring to my second point that other application components are becoming a little bit more important than just your test scores. So essays and interviews and your internal marks are very, very important. So that's obviously a trend that we've been seeing. In the past, universities would, publish their SAT mean scores, and that would probably get students to think twice if they haven't been in that range to apply to those colleges or not. But now, because of the standardized test waivers, that's no longer a hurdle, and students are looking at colleges which they might not have in the past. And because also of COVID-19, I think that many students are very uncomfortable with the online situation or unsure about doing asynchronous learning. They have deferred their admission to another year, but we can see that things aren't necessarily changing drastically, so they're going to have to probably enroll sooner or later. And all the university representatives on this call have just shown that it's actually possible, and that you're going to continue learning, and that it's a great system that many of these universities have now adopted. Anju mentioned that University of Arizona is offering scholarships. They've decreased some of their pricing, which is fantastic news, but unfortunately that's not the case across the board. Fewer scholarships are being offered. Sometimes many commercial companies would offer scholarships, especially at the postgrad level, but because COVID has hit them in certain capacities, they are not necessarily offering those scholarships anymore. So those are some of the changes that are happening in the international admissions arena. Let's move on to what grade 11 students should do for undergraduate admissions. You guys are no longer the guinea pigs. Your grade 12 students have been through it, and COVID-19 doesn't seem to be going anywhere, especially in India. So here's some advice that I'd like to share with you. Focus on your school grade and internal assessments. Nobody would have thought that this year's grade 12 students were not going to be able to sit exams, but here we are, just a whole year, and we're back to the same spot. So focus on schoolwork. Don't ignore those internal assessments, because it's likely, or it's not an impossibility that even next year, that those grades aren't going to be as important. Understand that interviews and essays are going to be more important than ever. This is a way to showcase yourself in any application, whether you're writing a personal statement for a UK university, whether you're writing a Common App essay for US universities, or an SOP for Australia or any other destination, Canada, or you're doing a video essay for Canadian colleges. This is a great way to kind of showcase yourself, show that you're passionate about a subject. So make sure that you're thinking about that. One thing that I advise a lot of the students that we work with to say is that look at multiple destinations, not only fixate on one destination, because we really don't know what the situation is going to be. And I really, really recommend that you apply to colleges in India as well. Places like OP Jindal are offering a fantastic education. They are mimicking the liberal arts education that is offered in international universities, and there's no reason why you shouldn't be looking at your own country. I've seen a shift in my own practice as well. US universities have always been on the top of the list for many Indian students, but now there's a shift with Canada offering PR. Harish mentioned that the 2-year work visa has now been reinitiated in the UK. So global destinations are now are really recruiting students. It's not just the US anymore. And of course, within India, we've seen a bunch of liberal arts colleges spring up, and it's definitely worth looking at those. In fact, all the students that we work with, I insist that they apply to at least 2 colleges in India. Another thing is, consider taking a gap year, maybe a break between grade 12 and college, so that you have some time to develop or pursue an extracurricular activity that you might be passionate about, or continue kind of to do an internship or something. I do understand that it's really difficult with COVID-19. Maybe you want to take a break of just online learning. I'm currently speaking to a few grade 12 students, and they're very much like, we want to focus on grade 12, do well this year, but take a year off before we delve into university. And that's really not a bad idea. Of course, depending on your circumstances, and obviously you need to have a plan for this year. And connect with colleges to demonstrate interest. I think this is really important. The more you reach out to colleges and demonstrate that you really want to enroll there, and you're interested in their programs, it's only going to help your case, because unlike the past where you could go visit campuses or you could attend information, well, there are online information sessions. Recruitment has shifted online now. So demonstrating your interest and really reaching out to admissions is something that you should certainly do. And evaluate your financial aid opportunities as well. While I've said that larger companies might not be pulling back, universities themselves are offering some great opportunities as well. In fact, boarding schools globally are doing the same as well, and trying to attract Indian students to come to their schools as well. So evaluate what financial aid opportunities you have before you decide where you want to study and where you want to apply. So how are universities adapting? I think my colleagues on this call have really spoken about all the work that they've been doing to make online learning as effective as it can be. But for prospective students, many of the universities have also announced that standardized testing is still going to continue to be optional for the next 1 year. And then if we talk a little bit about the UK universities, where there are tests that you need for if you want to study medicine in the UK or law, you do require to take these tests like the BMAT and UCAT, and they've all been transitioned to online. So that's really good news. Medical interviews for students who want to study in the UK, they used to typically do these mini medical interviews. That whole process has been translated online as well. Liberal arts colleges like OP Jindal have switched to online testing at home as well. So that's good news. And many Canadian universities have waived the conditional offers for current grade 12 students, and I do believe that more are going to follow suit, or they're going to obviously assess the internal marks that you're going to eventually achieve if you're a grade 12 student. And there will be opportunity for you to explain or contest if you haven't necessarily made the marks that you thought you would, given that there weren't really any exams. How can universities help students? I think all my colleagues here have been very open with their policies, and I think that's fantastic. Just to decrease anxiety, just stay in touch with your prospective students, make sure that they know what's happening, how the policies are changing. When students ask me, I understand that you don't know what the situation is. We don't know what's going to happen in September. Is there going to be another surge in the UK? Is there going to be more cases in Canada? We don't know. So, I understand that you're not equipped to make those decisions right away, but to avoid anxiety, just continue to let their students know what you are. What the policies are, what universities are thinking in terms of visa, accommodation, vaccine requirements, and of course quarantine norms, which are pretty well established given that we've already been in a year of online learning. And advice to students and parents, there's so many rumors that are going around about which I've heard things like, certain vaccines are not going to be allowed. You can only take, Covishield vaccine is not allowed at certain universities are going to not accept those. You must go find another vaccine. I've heard crazy rumors. So just make sure that you really stay in touch with your universities and understand what's going on, and don't just jump on the bandwagon if you're hearing something. Do your own research. And yes, for the next year, make sure you understand if there's any new application requirements. Because of the situation, universities might have other requirements that might not even have been announced yet. We don't know, because we don't know how long this is going to last. They're adapting just as we are. So just make sure you're on top of that, and continue to focus on what you can control. I mean, that's just the biggest piece of advice that I have to you. Focus on school, which is primarily important. Extracurricular activities, whatever you're doing, whether it's on whatever you're doing, even if it's online, it's absolutely fine. Everyone else is in the same boat as you, so you don't need to worry about that. And spend time on obviously getting those applications done to the best level that you can, and don't leave things till the last minute. I think that's also something that's important. And one other thing that I want to say is that when you apply to a university, it doesn't mean you have to enroll there. It just gives you options. That is why, students that work with the Red Pen, we really encourage them to look at more than at least 2 to 3 destinations when they're applying to university. Just by sending in an application, it doesn't mean you need to enroll. But if you are in a tough spot next April, we don't know what's going to happen. If you're a grade 11 student, at least having a few options on your plate will really, really benefit you. So yeah, that brings me to the end of my presentation. Thank you so much, Ankur. Happy to take questions. My contact details are here. If you have any specific questions about applying in India or internationally, please feel free to email me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Namita, for that informative session. Definitely now we come to the Q&A part, which we were all waiting for. I think this will be fun. This will be informative. So let me start taking these questions one by one in the order that they came in. So I think, give me a second. So I think first question is for you, Sagar. It's about opening up Australia. When can students expect to be there on campus? So any thoughts on that?
Ankur,
This is from Anuj Taneja. So this is the first question that we have for you. Please go ahead.
So I think, Anuj, we are also eagerly waiting for the same news. We've had, some kind of a pilot that the government initiated to see, how this movement can happen. And after that, I think a few states are coming with their plans of hosting international students. What kind of COVID support can they look at? Of course, like I mentioned, Australia themselves are not facing any COVID challenges for now, but they're very wary of, how, what will happen if an uncontrolled amount of, travel happens. One approach that we are hearing is also that, if the borders don't open soon, they do have an exemption category. So even from the University of Queensland, we have got around 4 to 5 students who have traveled recently to Australia. These are programs of some kind of national importance, as how they call it, like health, pharmacy, or nursing. So we've had students who've got the approvals to travel, which has stopped, of course, with the new wave for India. But what we're hearing is that if not the borders, maybe they can exempt students of a certain, maybe from certain countries or certain courses to start coming in. Even when the borders open, I think it's not going to just open up, just like that. I think they're going to first try to keep in mind who started first, which are, students who started in 2020 second semester, who are at the verge of maybe, reaching those very crucial practical sessions if, that they're part of the program. So I think that's something that we're all waiting eagerly. At the other side, I can just mention that the universities are open. Students back in Australia, they're able to go to campus. Students who started online have a visa, so most of them have visas. So as soon as the governments decide, students will be in a position to travel and resume. But as of now, there's no news on when there's a tentative timeline to it.
Thank you, Sagar. Thank you. Moving on to my next question, I have a question from my colleague Prabha from Mauritius. Prabha, thank you for joining us again. Prabha is a career counselor who regularly is a part of our show. Thank you so much once again, Prabha. She has a question for Harish. Harish, this is about the quarantine. Do students who come to campus have to undergo quarantine? What is the policy there? If you can talk about that. You're on mute.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ankur. Yes, currently, so there has been a lot of lobbying. Scottish universities and UK universities have been posing to the UK and Scottish governments respectively to dismiss the hotel quarantine for international students. Currently, there are some UK universities that are offering to cover the hotel quarantine costs through a hardship fund. But this is for students who still need to come into the UK for this intake, for this current intake that we're in. The University of Edinburgh is one of those universities that has a hardship fund for students who are needing to complete their studies in the UK. For 2021, we are still waiting further announcement from the UK and Scottish government about whether this can be dismissed for international students. As it stands, particularly for red list countries across South Asia, not just India, students will still be required to quarantine in designated hotels as it stands, but UK universities through Universities UK, which is a governing body for all UK universities, are lobbying that at the moment. There are, though, two, as part of a Scottish government pilot, there are 2 Scottish universities who are participating in a pilot in the summer to assess how hotel quarantine will work if it could happen. They are going to assess how it will work in the summer for current students who are currently in Scotland at the moment. But as it stands, international students do have to quarantine in designated hotels set by the UK government.
Sure, thank you, Harish. My next question is from Sujitra Chaudhary. Impact of moving classes to online on fee. Is there any scholarships that you guys are offering? Any fee deductions, or is it the same fee? So I will open this up to the panel. If anybody wants to take up any impact of your classes moving online on the fee part.
If you want, I can.
Yeah, Anju, go ahead.
Yeah, so of course, at Arizona, there are 2 modes of, studies right now, teaching as you call it. First is, of course, synchronous mode, which is more of live classes. The students who started in fall of 2020, they're all attending these classes. Of course, they have to get up in the evening and, they sleep at odd hours, but they're pretty used to it and they're pretty happy with the whole concept of it. And the other mode of teaching or learning could be the asynchronous mode, wherein the lectures are recorded the moment they are delivered to the students online. So lectures basically are uploaded on a platform called D2L, Desire to Learn, which is a very systematic way of teaching or learning. So students definitely love that platform. Now, when we talked about the, of course, liking, it's totally up to the students. We are making it very, very flexible for the students to choose from. So if you are interested in choosing the online, of course, there's not much we can do in terms of a fee reduction, because we are offering huge scholarships to the students, more than 50%, as I said. So the student end up paying the tuition fee minus the scholarship amount per semester, which can further be bifurcated in 3 installments. But if the student chooses to go for the asynchronous mode, which is the recorded lectures, then of course there's a huge reduction in the cost, wherein we are, getting this fee as low as $3,500 per semester. So depending on what suits you best, you choose that mode, and that is what we are doing at University of Arizona. So it's totally up to you what you like, and accordingly go ahead for that. So yeah, that's my response to the question.
Thank you, Anju. Any other panelist wants to chip in here?
I can add that I think in general, for all Australia, the number of scholarships for Indian students have increased. So the quantum has increased. So even the percentage of scholarships and the number of scholarships both have gone up. There are also blanket rebates that have come in. So for example, at University of Queensland, we have a blanket reduction on the online component for all students who start. As well as we have something like the India Excellence Scholarship or the India High Achiever Scholarship, which covers a large, part of that particular expense. And I think it's across the board with Australian universities there.
Perfect. So I'll move on to the next question from Dr. Anupama Malik. She has asked us, I need to know the details of admissions for students who will complete their 12th in 2022. Namita, you have flagged this, so you would like to go ahead and answer this. You have written, I'll answer this.
Can you just repeat the question, Ankur?
Question is details of admission for students who will complete their 12th in 2022. So for the next year, how should they prepare for university admissions if they are planning to go abroad?
Okay, I mean, I answered this in my talk.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, if there's any specific question relating to that, let me know. But I think
there are multiple questions that you have flagged. I'll just take them one by one. So the next question that you want to answer is, will our grades from UG degrees pursued in online mode be equally valid for admissions in master's degree abroad?
So I think they will, because everyone's in the same boat. I mean, universities aren't going to, prejudice you if you've done an online course or you've spent some of your online undergraduate degree online, some of your undergraduate degree online. So I don't think that's something you need to worry about. You need to, as long as you complete what you started, you need to complete the modules, make sure that you're staying on top of your work, make sure that you've submitted all your work and you get the grade from your university, no matter where you're at. This should absolutely bear no negative there'll be no negativity when you're applying for your master's degree. So don't worry about that. Now back to the first question, if you're a grade 11 student, like I mentioned, I mean, the two main points that I want to bring out here is just look at multiple destinations and, make sure that you're up to date with new policies that are coming out. With standardized testing, I think the universities in Georgia and the US have actually said that for this next year, testing is now mandatory. There's a lot of, there's a petition being signed to ask why this is the case, but just understand what is happening in the international education space, because universities are changing policies too. They're adapting to this new normal, this new change. So just make sure you're on top of that and just focus on what you can control, which is essentially your schoolwork, internal marks, and whatever extracurriculars you can do from home.
Perfect, thank you. And next question is from Sujitra Chaudhary. Her son is interested in doing automotive engineering. Any university here offers automotive engineering? She just wants to know if there is any university here. No one?
Yeah, we do offer. We are very strong in engineering, so I invite them to explore engineering at University of Waterloo. And of course, there is a requirement. So, sorry?
Yeah. Any idea on the admission process, Dr. Pavak?
So that really depends, because I can share the link to her. Basically, it depends on what exactly engineering that they want to go in as a student and what board they are in. And then there is a match that happens on University of Waterloo website. So it's a very comprehensive website. I can share the link for the admission requirement.
Yeah, that would be
great. They can do it depending upon CBSE, ICSE, state board. They might be a little different. So I can't give you an exact answer on top of my mind, because I don't know the background of the student, but I can share the link with them.
Yeah, I think that will be great. Since there are students also here, I encourage you to share your contact details also in the chat box, so they can reach out to you, and probably some links that they can go to and read more about your respective university. That will help them. Okay, going on to the next question. Prabha has asked, if examinations are cancelled and final grades are not available, how would universities address the application process? Prabha, I think that's been answered. We will follow whatever guidelines the respective governments put in place. I think all of us will do that. So I'm not going to spend much time on this question. I'd like to quickly move on to the next question. How are the admission committees taking in account the students who are unable to build their portfolio? Has the admission criteria changed? Harish, you would like to answer this question. Harish, over to you.
Thanks very much, Ankur. Yes, this is something that I've been asked a lot of times, particularly when delivering sessions on the UCAS, University College Admission Service personal statement for the UK, particularly for subjects like medicine, veterinary medicine as well, which we're very strong at, and our Edinburgh College of Art, which offers a wide range of art and design courses where a portfolio is required. We've been saying that it's not going to be disadvantaged. It won't disadvantage their application as long as they can demonstrate their interest in the subject, which is what it's about in the UK, the academic engagement. We know it's very hard to do practical engagement, particularly if you're looking at subjects that require clinical expertise, such as medicine or veterinary medicine. We are saying if they can do something online, even if it's going to an online conference, online journals, engaging with that, that's demonstrating knowledge. It doesn't have to be, just given the circumstances, it doesn't have to be in person, shadowing doctors, shadowing nurses. It does not have to be that, because we know that's not possible. As long as there is exposure through online courses or online journals, then that would be sufficient, because that's showing a knowledge and engagement with the subject.
Thank you, Harish. Namita, you want to chip in?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with Harish, and I just want to say that everyone's in the same boat here. So if you haven't been able to, go shadow a doctor or go continue to play international level tennis, I mean, that's absolutely fine. Just do whatever you can from home. And one thing that's completely underrated is read a book. Read books that are not necessarily part of your curriculum. Universities love that, and it'll help you. I promise. So just read outside your curriculum and talk about that. It'll just give you extra knowledge to speak about in an interview if you're invited to one, or something to write about in your personal statement if you're applying for UCAS as well. I've had students that have spent about a third of their personal statement talking about books that they've read above and beyond the curriculum that they're learning in school, and it just shows how interested they are in that particular subject. So that's something you can definitely do. Online courses there's so many free courses available through Coursera. Definitely enroll in those. Again, talk about what you've learned from them specifically if you've been invited for an interview and why that's interesting to you, not just that I completed a course. What part of that course was interesting to you? Why did you do it? And what did that tell you about yourself? That, okay, I did this course on genetics and that just solidified that I really wanted to go and study biochemistry at university, or I learned about these things that are above and beyond the A-level or IB syllabus. So just remember that there's a lot of stuff that you can do from home as well. And if you are a very, very competitive applicant, you will find ways to even continue to doing community engagement through home. So many of our students are, volunteering in some capacity to help COVID hit patients. No one's asking you to kind of go and put yourself at risk, but organizing some kind of fundraiser or coming together, doing some kind of a bake sale and organizing those funds. There's a lot you can do if you're imaginative. It's not hard.
Thank you, Namita, for that advice. Moving on, there's a question from Hiten Malhotra about University of Arizona academic program for high school students. Anju, if you want to take this up.
Yeah, sure. Of course. Thanks for the question. I'm sure it's about Arizona Academy. So as I said, it has been launched for the high school students who are currently in class 11 and 12. So after completion of their class 10, what they can do is we have 3 starts, one in spring, one in summer, and then in fall intake. So depending on your convenience, you can take up asynchronous mode classes, as I said, recorded lectures. And by doing so, you can actually, if you continue doing the same for after completion of your class 10, then you can actually do about 30 credits. If when we talk about US university, an undergrad degree is generally of about 120 credits. So we are talking about 30 credits per year here. So if you want, you can do entire 30 credits in the next 2 years, sitting here while you are doing your high school. So that basically is fast tracking your UG degree while you are studying in your school. So if you want to know more about how that works and things like that, of course, I have shared my details. I'll be happy to talk to you more in detail. You can visit our website, but the underline is, of course, that's possible. These credits are transferable to any US university, and if you wish, you definitely can bring it to Arizona. And if you do that, you can start right from second year with a scholarship up to $12,500 per annum. So yeah, that's the gist of it.
Thank you so much. I have a couple of questions for Dr. Pavak. You have marked them. One is from Sudha Rakesh about the visa issue for Indian students. How can universities help in the visa processing? Another one from Prabha, who is asking about holistic approach for admissions and limitation on extracurricular activities. And I think the third one is from Dr. Anupam Malik. She's asking about admissions requirement for 2022 in Canada. I'd say you can club all of them and take this together. That will be a better way.
Yeah, sure. Basically, when I missed the first question.
So visa issue. What is the support that you can provide in terms of visa?
So in terms of support for the visa issue, Canada has a pretty liberal visa policy for students. So it's a very strange thing that someone's visa get rejected or denied. You should look at, the first thing is you should look at admission only at a DLI, designated learning institution in Canada. Canada has a host lot of institutions, but visas to DLIs are much more easier to get. So all universities in Canada, which are state university, Waterloo, or any other for that matter, UFT, UBC, everyone is a designated learning institution. So first, when you choose an educational institution, choose the right one. Don't go by the wrong one. There are quite a lot of business and education as well. So don't go for those ones. Second, when you get your admission, I know for sure some of the top universities in Canada, including Waterloo, has a student service office where we have a registered immigration consultant who guide them for the entire visa process. And therefore, you don't have to go to the consultants, mom and pop consultants in India. You can just reach out to university consultants. They will actually help you with all the documents that you want. They will also connect you back end from the university offices, what documents you would need for your visa. They will help you with an application. So that's the thing you should do. And Of course, then there is police verification and biometrics and medical requirements, which are, of course, universities can't really help about it, but I believe most universities provide full end-to-end support for visa students as long as the documentation is concerned. So that you should look at it. So first get your admission, accept the offer, and then of course, the next step of visa follows. Second question was, what was
Holistic
that?
approach to admissions. What is the admission policy for your university?
So co-curricular activities matter a lot and University of Waterloo admissions. Of course, we evaluate a candidate based on their academic, but we also believe that no person can be evaluated based on a piece of paper called mark sheet. I think there is a lot different aspects to your personality beyond that piece of paper. So that is where extracurricular matters. What we look at last 4 years of extracurricular activities and how you present yourself about those extracurricular activities. Nonetheless, as Namita said, everyone knows, we know, our admission officer know, you know, your teachers know that 2 years have been challenging, but how you have made these challenges into opportunities. There has been, if you look for opportunities, there have been exceptionally great opportunities, available, and not all opportunities that we look for require a certificate of proof that you did it. When you write about it, that our admission officers are smart enough to evaluate about the intensity and the genuinity of those work that you have done. So community service is a great thing. I have seen students helping senior citizens under lockdown in India, that they buy them groceries, they help them all the stuff that they need. Reading books is a great thing. Doing online courses is sitting at home. That is a big thing. People here ask that, what did you do in this adverse timing? How did you, don't play video games and kill your time. I mean, you can do it for recreation purpose, but how you are using this downtime productively. You save at least 2 hours to commute to your school. So what do you do in those 2 hours? Try and make most of it out of those adversities. There are fabulous courses. A lot of universities in America, in UK, in Canada are offering online, which are more or less for free. So, do some of those things. And that also helps you build your career. So extracurriculars matter. They continue to matter. Just that, your approach has to be different than winning games and certificate to doing something else. That answers my second question. And the third question was, Ankur? Sorry, I've been giving you a lot of... Sorry.
You have answered all the questions. So I have just time for last couple of questions, and with this we'll close the forum. I think these come from some pretty well-known counselors. One is Mr. David Ipe from Indian High School in Dubai, and the other one is Miss Neera Lakshmi Handa from the British School in New Delhi. First, I'll take the David's question. David says, how dependable are predicted scores as students are taking examinations online? And the second is from Neera, who says that it's about the timing differences between India and Western countries, and how universities are forcing students to possibly, get up in night and attend classes while sleeping in the daytime. So are we going to see some changes in that? So I open these two questions for the forum. This will be the last question. We'll not have time for any other questions. So I'll request you to chip in with your thoughts for both these questions. Starting with you, Namita, if you can start.
Yeah, with the predicted grade question. So I think it really depends on which country you're applying to and which university you're looking at when you're looking at predicted grades. If you're applying to universities in the UK, they really do look at their predicted grades very seriously, because it's based on that they give you a conditional offer. And universities in the UK, they're very black and white. They'll say that these are our minimum entry requirements. These are the subjects that we need. So if your predicted grade is equal to or higher than the minimum entry requirement for that university, that particular course, go ahead and apply. If not, don't. It's simple as that. And I actually love the fact that it's so transparent. There's really nothing to think about here. University of Waterloo in Canada, they do the same. They have like a minimum requirement that they want. They tell you that up front. Sagar, maybe you can comment on Queensland. And the US is a little bit more holistic. They're not only going to look at your predicted grade, they look at many other components as well. They will look at your mark sheets all through high school, which is 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. And they look at your letters of recommendation, your extracurricular activities, and your essays. The other universities do the same as well. Pavak clearly said that extracurriculars at Waterloo matter. Harish mentioned that they want to see how serious you are about the course that you're applying to, because in the UK, unlike the rest of the destinations, you have to be very sure what you want to study, and then you can't really change your major halfway. There is flexibility at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, but not vastly. You cannot go into the university and decide I want to study medicine 2 years down the line. It's not possible to change. So when it comes to predicted grades, it is important that you have good predicted grades, because it's what the teachers think you're going to get eventually when you sit those exams. Now, eventually the teacher, if the exams are not going to happen, the teachers are going to go according to what the board says and do the internal assessments to get you that eventual grade. And the universities and the board are going to rely on your teachers, because they're the ones who are the most in touch with you and who know how you're faring in those subjects and how you're faring in grade 12. So they're important when you're applying to university, I think, all around the world. But maybe my other, Harish, Anju, Sagar, and Pavak, please do contribute or tell us about your university's point of view on predicted grades.
Thank you, Namita. Anybody wants to chip in? Anju, you want to say anything?
Just very quickly, when we talk about predicted grades for University of Arizona, of course, till the time we were accepting SATs and ACT scholarships, it didn't matter much, to be very frank. Like now, because the decisions are being based on the GPA as well, which Namita just mentioned about 9, 10, 11. So predicted scores of 12 definitely makes a lot of sense, especially in University of Arizona's case when we actually award scholarships. So of course they matter a lot, and it would matter for some time, let's say, because ACT and SAT, as I said, has gone for good. Now, answering the second question that you had regarding online classes during the night, I know it could be really, really taxing for the students and the parents. Equally, I'm a mother of a young daughter, and I have seen the schedules has gone like really crazy and bonkers. But then when we talk about the University of Arizona point of view, of course, as I said earlier, it's a flexible option. If you wish, you can choose. Nobody is going to force you. If you are comfortable with, when we talk about our classes, they start at around 8 o'clock in the evening till 2:30 maximum, and then are over, right? That too on alternate days and things like that. If the student wants, they can opt for it. Otherwise, we can go ahead and go for asynchronous mode classes. That's the entire idea, because when we talk about India, we are 12.5 hours ahead of the Arizona time. So I totally understand it's tough for parents and students equally. So we are keeping it the choice on the students. If they want to go for online, great, we are there offering classes. But if you want to opt for asynchronous, we are equally happy for you. So yeah, depending on your choice, you can go for that. So that's my response on the answer. The question, sorry.
I think Harish wants to answer, and then Sagar.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ankur. Just to say on predicted grades for the UK, kind of to echo what Namita mentioned, is that the University of Edinburgh and most UK universities will only look at the predicted 12 marks. Predicted 12 marks from the CBSE, CISE boards, and IB, predicted IB points as well. One thing I do want to stress here is that competition is fierce more than ever. This year, the University of Edinburgh received over 70,000 applications from across the globe and the UK as well. So even for some of our most in-demand subjects like computer science, if they're meeting the minimum, they may not even be getting an offer, because we are really pushing the bar up. So and especially because students are choosing all options across the globe, it's making the competition even fierce. So it really is based on the predicted grades, and for us, the engagement in the subject in the personal statement. I think going back to Neera's question about the time zone difference, for us, we use a platform called Blackboard Collaborate, which means our lectures are recorded. So if students are we know, given the current time zone difference for us and with India, it's 4.5 hours. Currently, it's manageable. When it was 5.5 hours, still a bit tricky, particularly for early morning lectures and tutorials, but we do have platforms that record tutorials, seminars, and lectures, so students can still access them in an offline capacity if they're not willing to do so in a live capacity. If they're not willing to access them in a live capacity as well.
Thank you, Harish. Just a quick side note, what is driving this rush for applications to your university? Is it that you become test optional or something?
No, it's not. And Ankur, I think it's even more so during the pandemic. And again, I should stress this is just undergraduate as well. 70,000. This is just undergraduate. Even during the pandemic, there's still been a surge from multiple countries, not just China, not just India, Southeast Asia, parts of the Middle East, and Sub-Saharan Africa, as well as the UK. Part of the drive, I'd say, internationally would be the graduate immigration route. Yes. Part of the drive also is still the desire to engage with us as a university, and for some of our most in-demand subjects are economics, business, computer science. These were already oversubscribed subjects, and yet they are still even more so. So it is making the offer-making process that much more difficult for our admissions teams.
I think I should have a webinar on this, because when COVID started, it was like international education is going to go away. Students are not going to go. Economy in India is going down. And now I keep on hearing that universities are getting more and more applications. So we should have a webinar on this, and we should discuss this, what happened and what we were thinking about. Because I remember I doing webinars last year, same time, I was thinking the international education is going to take a hit. But when I start hearing these things like applications are going up, so I want to understand what is happening on the ground. Sagar, you wanted to share something. So
yeah, very similar to what Harish mentioned. So the 12th grade predicted scores matter a lot for us at UQ. And like I mentioned, there's an option of conditional starts, which means that once you have your predicted grades, you can get an offer, you can get a conditional confirmation of enrollment, which helps you get a scholarship, also a visa in hand. So I think, and then you have time till October end to supplement any pending documents. So I think for us, the predicted scores, that's one way of, putting it across, helping students not worry about what's going to happen with the ambiguity around. And in terms of timing, I think we've got a 4.5 hour difference. And like Harish mentioned, we use the same platform, so the recorded sessions are there. But I don't think there's much of a difference when you look at 4.5 hours from India to Australia. There's hardly one odd lecture that you may miss if you would like to sleep a little more. So we're not facing that kind of a sentiment there of that sorts.
Okay, thank you so much, Sagar. I think that's just one final point. I just go back to my friend David from Dubai. His question was, how dependable is the predicted score? So dependency of the predicted score current, definitely from the Indian context, if you are not from IB or a Cambridge background and you're from a CBSE school, CBSE schools do not have a concept of predicted scores. And this is what we as a university also feel, that when you don't have a concept in Indian university at Jindal, we also ask students for predicted scores. A lot of the time students write to me, there is no concept of predicted score in my school, and CBSE particularly. So how dependable are those scores in that case? So we in Jindal definitely, for this year and last year, we removed grade 12 predicted scores requirement from our admission process and said we don't want predicted scores, because Indian schools don't really have a dependable way of giving us predicted scores. It's just students being asked to write in your own predicted scores. Sometimes I know some institutions do that. Predict your scores and tell us what you'll achieve. Everybody is going to achieve 90%. So I think David is coming from a CBSE school, and I know Indian High School Dubai is a CBSE school. They don't have a concept of predicted scores. I don't know what the correct answer is for Jindal. I'm telling you, David, we don't ask for predicted scores. We have removed predicted scores because we know predicted scores don't work. Pavak, you have raised your hand. You want to answer? Have a chip in here.
Yeah, so I am aware that predictability of the predicted score is a big area of concern, but I believe and I have raised it with a lot of my counselor friends in India, and whenever we meet, for all universities abroad, predicted scores matter a lot, and the more accurate predicted scores you give, it adds to your school's impression and brand value. So coming to that is required. I mean, closer to that is better. And of course, what are conditional offers for? So predicted scores are required just for an offer, but mind well, if your predicted scores are not in line with the actual score of a student, he's gonna get denied even after having got a conditional offer and maybe an admission. So, I mean, it's a very valid point. A lot of schools do take predicted scores very seriously. A lot of schools, as you said, don't have a set procedure for that. But I believe it's an in trend, and I believe over a period of next 5 years, most schools will have to get into it.
Yeah,
But conditional offers are going to be there.
I know I find it funny because predicted scores came from IB, and IB will have a method on how they give predicted scores. Now, CBSE schools do not have a method. There is no prescription from CBSE saying that this is the method you should do to give predicted scores. But some schools in CBSE in India give predicted scores. I do not know what methodology. There is no one single rule in CBSE that says this is the way or method to evaluate and give predicted scores. But students still get predicted scores, and sometimes they write their own. It's like 2 years back when I used to evaluate, I said, who gave you this predicted score? Like, I did it myself. I filled in the form because I think I'll get 90. No student thinks that I will get below 90 in grade 12. So very interesting. Maybe webinar for some other time. I think predicted scores and how that will work. So thank you so much. We have run out of time. I'm sorry, we are already 12 minutes over time, but we had good discussion. My sincere gratitude on behalf of OP Jindal Global University to have all of you spare some time. Harish joined in from UK, Pavak early morning from Canada. Thank you so much for bearing with the time difference. Namita, Sagar and Anju, thank you so much for being here with us. We value your feedback. We value your guidance to our students and our career counselors and colleagues that joined us, all the students, parents, teachers, career counselors. Thank you so much on behalf of OP Jindal Global University. My sincere gratitude. And we look forward to coming back to you again next week or the week after that with another set of international educators or national educators and take some another topic of discussion in the education space. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone. Wherever you are, stay safe, stay well, and have a good evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Ankur. Thank you
so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. See you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Take care.